Hi guys, welcome. I'm here with Ricky Staub. That's how I intro. And we are so excited. I'm so excited because you're a friend and I haven't really been able to ask these questions and I'm so excited. All I know is you are a writer and director and I want to hear all about it. I think because I'm very passionate about writing, maybe different. I like short stories, little essays, and I don't know. I write with a friend. We just make up stories, and so yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I have like a little poetry club I go to. Like it used to be weekly, now it's monthly, but I'm just passionate about creating. So I'm so excited. And how is the kind of the point of this part of the podcast is like light in the world. And what really is inspiring me is reading in Daniel and his friends living kind of as captives in Babylon and influencing that place and how, so I want to bring people on that are doing it. Like, how are you able to influence in your spheres? Yeah. So you could, if you want to give a little nuggets about yourself, this is the moment.
Yeah, no, I am a writer and director for TV and film for my career, but it did start with my buddy that I wrote with before I was paid is the same guy that I write with now.
Okay.
Except we get paid. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I started in college for fun. I was literally the guy that we would write short stories, scripts, basically on the weekends.
Was it part of his class or was it just like, let's do this?
No, it started one summer. We just thought, what was it, my sophomore year of college? We were living in California by the beach. We were both from the Midwest, so we were like, this is really cool.
We're living it up.
And they're like, people that live in California write movies. So one summer we decided to take a go at it and actually really fell in love with it.
Whoa.
And then basically never stopped. But I mean, it was a good almost 15 years before I actually got paid.
Wow. Wait, that's a word. Someone needs to hear that.
Yeah. So a lot of writing that no one was reading. But it really just became a part of, it's just how I expressed myself creatively.
I feel that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always, writing is probably the most core of my like creative expression. Even since I was young, I wrote my first full script when I was 10 years old.
Wow. Okay.
So this has been my childhood dream since I can remember.
Okay, Stephen King.
Yeah. I don't go that far, but
that's what he did. That's so cool.
But yeah, so then it just continued in some form or another throughout my life. When I became a Christian in high school, I took to journaling. I've done that consistently since I was 17. Whoa. I have a whole safe full of almost 25 journals.
Totally.
So,
what are you going to do with those?
I don't know.
Isn't it funny?
Now that I'm older and I have kids, now I'm like, wait, people are going to read these when I die. And there's some stuff in there, so I don't know. Right now they're in a safe because when the Thomas fires happened, I just pieced out on our house and my wife was like, you need to put those somewhere.
Yeah.
So now they're in a safe, but now I'm running out of space.
When we had the fire, I was in the Reading when we had the car fire up there near the same time as the Thomas fire. And the only thing I grabbed were essential oils and my journals, a big bucket, and that's it. I brought like the wrong shoes.
Essential oils, huh?
Back then,
They're
yeah.
Essential.
Yeah.
It's good.
I literally have one in my pocket, y'all.
Why do you have them on you?
Because it's peppermint and I keep coughing. If you've listened to this podcast for like this last month, you know. But this is like tingly and nice. I literally have it on me. Anyway.
It's hilarious.
So I get it. A safe is a good idea for journals.
There you go.
So you became a Christian and you're like, you kind of turned it in like expressing like maybe to God. Prayers.
Yeah, writing seems to be a way that I solidify my thoughts.
Yeah.
I think when I write stuff down, I don't write things I don't feel like I'm meaning in the moment. It helps me a lot of times when I try to sit quietly with the Lord and practice solitude, my mind just torments me with a carousel of thoughts.
Yeah.
And when I put a pen to paper, it helps me
Get it out.
focus.
Yeah.
What I'm really trying to like pray over. But I have tried to practice a lot more just sitting silently or, reciting a breath prayer that helps me.
Ooh, breath prayer. Do you have an example?
Yeah, mine is Psalm 25.
Oh.
It's to you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. I trust in you, my God. So I'll just repeat that, like on an inhale, the first half, and on an exhale, the second half.
This is so good. This is so good.
Yeah, to you, O Lord, and then lift up my soul. So anyway, I do that. I'll do that for minutes to try to calm my mind. So
you would love. On a side note, you would love my poetry friends. This is like exactly what we talk about all the time. And like my friend Andrew, just as a little side, but he is like, he loves liturgy and soaking on the Psalms and breathing in like the whole thing. It's just so fun. That's good. Anyway, just.
Oh yeah. So that's.
Inhale, exhale it.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, how did you transition to like more? So you went to like high school, the college, you said that's where it really like formed. Wait, we can like, was it like, did you shift realizing, okay, I can write my thoughts out, my prayers, these things, and then to like, oh wait, we can like create something more? Or we were already doing that?
That was just kind of, I was always doing that. Even, when I was younger, I used to make videos with my sisters. We had a soap opera called The Young and the Useless.
Wow.
That we made. And I would film those things and film us in them. And I even did like taped all these credits together and like scrolled them at the end.
Wait, can we see the world see that? Is it out there?
Nah, my dad probably has the tapes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's not out there, unfortunately.
Reenact, you can make this again. Wow.
I haven't seen it. I have to look back. But,
that's so cool.
But I've always been making videos, or I was the guy in high school or college that was like the only one who knew how to take a tape and put it on a computer and try to edit something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Those are good times.
It was just kind of part of what I was always drawn to, interest-wise. And, after college, I worked for this producer. But this whole time, as I'm learning to make movies, which is very much a business and there's a lot of practicalities to it, I was constantly writing behind the scenes, so to speak, myself. And
keeping up with it.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, honestly, I don't know my life without writing.
Wow.
I feel a little bit, it's hard, when I meet other filmmakers or people that want to make a living writing, sometimes it's hard to explain, like, if I wasn't paid to do this, I would probably still be doing it.
Yeah, that's so good.
I'm just really fortunate that eventually I get paid to do it.
That's okay. Also, I'm just gonna take that. You just reminded me. I was just reading something about David. I think Upper Room Church just posted something about the life of David, and like he would be doing what he was doing whether or not he didn't elevate himself to be the king, and he didn't sustain it. And I just love that thought where you just kind of said the same thing, like I would still be doing this whether or not, like stewarding what you were doing already, and then maybe you go somewhere with it, but like this is what I want to be doing no matter what.
Yeah,
that's so good. What so what was the turning point for you? Like what was, you were working with those people, and I know nothing. Probably there's people listening that know nothing about that industry.
Yeah.
Good and the bad, the ugly, all of it. But I want to hear, I guess, what like a turning point for you was, and like getting into that. I guess it seems like it was kind of natural for you, just following what I want to do.
Yeah.
But also, what does, I guess, success, what does that look like to you? Versus what other people see as success in that industry. So I guess
that's a good question.
Whatever you feel.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wrestle with that a lot now. I would say my college self would say I am successful now. Like at the time when I was in college, if you had said you can make a living writing for TV and movies, you've succeeded.
Wow.
I will say, though, now that I do that, the bar always moves.
Wow.
I'm not devoid of human desire for achievement. And so what I think the Lord's constantly putting different missional seasons in front of me,
Ooh.
I would say, is how do I find contentment in where I'm at, not knowing where I'm going. So, my priorities changed, like from when I was in college and just wanted to be a successful filmmaker. Now I'm married and have 2 boys, and I recognize how important my mission to them is. But I also, in order to get paid for what I do, I have to be, I'm essentially a professional athlete in a certain degree. So I have to be, I'm competing at the highest level, which can be very daunting. And so I'm just trying to find contentment in, what I get to have now. Like if this is truly where the Lord wants me, then great. And if it goes away, then I have a unit at home. We can figure that out. So I'm trying not to carry so much worry and stress into at this level with my art, which is a very precious part of me, as whether you get paid for it or whether it's for fun, it is a precious expression of your heart, and mine gets exploited with dollar signs and yeses and nos.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying not to let that volatility, move me or rock me so hard. Just to be content that sometimes there'll be highs, sometimes there'll be lows.
It's just that's so tough when it's like what you really care about. And it's like, it's something you're passionate about. I mean, it's like one thing if you're like, I'm just in this for the money and I'm just like climbing a ladder. I mean, there might be that also, but like you're actually passionate and like presenting something that you created. And it's like, nope, that's not gonna, it's not gonna happen. And like someone destroying your work or wanting to change it completely. I don't know. I imagine that happens too. And like keeping contentment and like, oh, that's good.
It's brutal.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. I can't imagine like presenting work and it. Yeah, I don't even know how that process goes, but that feels like it would be brutal.
Yeah, when you get praise for it, it feels fleeting, and when you get criticism or indifference to your work, it feels like it lasts a lot longer and hurts a lot deeper. So I'm trying to, in this phase, learn that just to be content. Like it's incredible that I'm in this season where I get to make money doing this, and how cool, trying to hold it very loosely, but enjoy it as fully as I can, but without it swaying me emotionally or causing me to erupt high or low.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
What's like a project that you've done doesn't have to be like anything flashy, but what's something that you're like put so much love and heart into that you're so proud of, like, or maybe everything?
No, I think there are different projects at different levels.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say one of the more meaningful projects to me was probably the short film that I made. This would have been, we put it out in 2017. So it's 7
I remember
years ago
that.
now.
I remember
Called
hearing.
The Cage. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that actually got me to have a career, but the putting it together, we made that film with the community in Philly where I lived previous to Ventura. And, it was at a point in my career, call it, where I had yet to really call myself a director, and that was the first time where I was like, I'm gonna see if I can take the leap from my potential to if I can actually do it. Oh, it was terrifying.
And like, did you get or do you get like imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
What's that like for you?
I mean, I just kind of weather it. You know, I'm thankful I have a filmmaking partner that I do a lot with. So
You're great.
we at least have each other be like,
Yeah.
I can't believe they're letting us.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna pay us of all the people to do this. You know,
So cool.
We're just two dudes that were doing this in our dorm room.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
What is The Cage about?
It's about it's 14-minute short film. It's about a young kid growing up in the hood, but ultimately it's a decision the film is about like the decisions we make and ultimately like our darkest parts of who we are don't define us.
Oof. I'm gonna have to post that in the little show notes.
And that God isn't surprised by our sin. I actually forget the actual line. I think it's like God's all twisted up in this shit.
Oh, so good.
The narrator says that, you know, when I was making that, I was at a very like dark place in of what people were saying about me or what I thought about myself, and I was realizing like none of this is surprising to God.
That's so good.
Like, God knows what we hurt with, and I think in that project in particular, I was made aware that God, I didn't believe in the beginning that God cared about me making a short film. And it became evident to me through the process that God cared about.
Isn't that crazy? He cares about like everything. Yeah. He cares about it all. And
I didn't have a son back then. Now I have two, and I care deeply about building Legos well with them, you know, and if I can have those things, you know.
That's simple stuff. Like if you care so much like about little things, how much more does our Father like care about it all?
Yeah.
Side like another question about that. Was that okay, as I guess this is a writing question, so I'm gonna ask about that. For any of our writers out there, how do you feel about putting out something that says like, what did you say about what was that one liner you said? The narrator says,
oh, God is all twisted up in this shit.
Ah, it's so good. To me, it like makes me tingle. Like makes me so excited to like say something that's so powerful. How are you like transitioning to putting those things out there that are like, oops, could I say this? Like I'm gonna say this. You know what I mean? Like when I write something, for example, at poetry club, and I cuss in it, or this is a hot topic, so I'm not going to talk about cussing. That's not my point. My point is, like, when you say something that maybe it was even from your past and it's not current, and it's like, I was in a dark place, but I wrote about it and I'm saying it now. I'm speaking it out, but it's not where I am right now. And people could misunderstand it, you know, like just, I guess I'm just wondering, like, how it's so vulnerable to put something like that out there. Yeah. And for people to misjudge, like totally misunderstand what you're saying, your art. I guess that's the case for anything. But how was that process of like, or how did you feel? How do you feel, not even with The Cage, but like anything you put out there being misunderstood? Excuse me.
Very good.
I think about that all the time. Like someone reading my work, we don't know whose is whose when we read our poems. We intentionally make it that way. But someone's like, trying to understand what I wrote, and I'm like, that's not it. Or that they got it, you know? But I guess that's a risk for anything you make.
Yeah, I think it depends on the medium, you know. In my circumstance, I think people understanding, there's a balance. Yeah. People understanding my message is important to a certain degree, because if no one understands it, then is the art worth much? Right. You know, I'm not the type of artist that will go paint in the forest and not care if anyone understands my art. Ooh, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, even when I was writing and barely anyone read the writing, I still assumed if someone read this, it would be a meaningful message and it would hit them and move them. That's so good. And so, but I'm not always chasing everyone's response to my art, you know, like, I remember, I think it was the editor of my first movie that we put out. He said, you know, not everyone needs to love your film, but some people do. Yeah. and you can't make things for everyone. And there's not a single film that anyone can say unilaterally, this is the best movie. That's what makes it's interesting when you then make something in that type of art where it gets debated.
Right.
Some people will love something I made,
true.
and some people will think it's trash.
Wow.
And that's an interesting, you never think about it when you actually make something like that. So
do you make it first for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think there's a balance. Like if I'm, getting notes from audiences or, part of our process with a film is it gets screened to test audiences. And if there's a unanimous misunderstanding, then I should be like, okay,
communication.
The spirit of what I'm trying to go for is not landing.
Wow.
Even though I think it is, but I need to tweak something or change this or dial this up.
That's really good.
But sometimes there's things that people don't get, but overall the message is still received. And I'm like, oh, if I change that though, they might miss the overall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a taste thing. I think ultimately you have to, at the end of the day.
That's kind of nice to have people hearing or watching or listening to something and giving feedback. But I mean, not every single comment, of course, but it's kind of nice. Because you're like, okay, I can tweak this. And
it's like trying to take every single note your mom or dad gave you on something.
It's a lot.
It's an audience of them. So
wow.
That's why I think the collective is a helpful, like what do 300 people in an audience.
Right.
Gathering.
Whoa. What is, I'm just coming off the top of my head. But in that industry, if you want to share things, because this is a church podcast basically, but what's so is there somebody that's trying to go into this in the industry, and if it's art, music, or I guess writing or direct, any of this, what is really difficult for you? What has been, you can be totally honest if you want, I don't know, or what's been surprisingly, oh, that's actually not so difficult, I have tools to handle this.
I think the most difficult for me is how to treat people with tenderness and love and care that are otherwise frustrating, mean, degrading, inconsiderate. I find that to be something that has been challenging in this season.
Is that the majority of people?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's majority of people are incredible. I think it's part of who I draw myself to, but there are instances where I'm very aware of scripture, and I've meditated a lot on this. When someone aggravates me or hurts me or lies to me or does something to that effect, I go, oh, this means now I have to love them and serve them.
Oof.
And that is very frustrating to me, because it often comes at, it makes me go, it's going to cost me something in an earthly sense, but I'm betting on a more eternal value that the Lord promises.
That's so good.
I would say currently that is something I find very difficult at this level. But again, it's not the majority, but when it happens, I'm like, wow, that was strikingly difficult to deal with.
Wow.
And my response and posture to them, whether it's noticed or not, it's where the Holy Spirit meets my sin, because my flesh wants to use human words to cut people down and put them in their proper place. And there's a meekness that I embrace, in the classical sense of the word meekness, in terms of bridling my strength and not.
That's so good. Ricky, that's so good.
When Jesus says, I could send a legion of angels here, when after Judas betrays him. Not that I'm Jesus in any sense of the word, but to have that amount of power and to let yourself be thwarted is, to me, a great testament to when we try to Jesus says, imitate me, be perfect as I am perfect. That comes to my mind in this season of my work, where when I'm mistreated or betrayed in some fashion, my response.
It's literally like loving your enemies, like walk further, walk with them and then like turn the other cheek and like.
It's even
love them.
Yeah, studying scripture. I mean, Jesus says to imitate him is, he died for us when we were actually his enemies.
That's
What
crazy.
scripture says, as we are still his enemies. And so to imitate him means like we actually serve. What does it look like to serve someone who's mistreating you, hurting you, frustrating you?
Yeah.
As I always love this quote from Mother Teresa. She calls people who are annoying, she calls them teachers of love.
Oh, why is she so good? Why does she have to be so
Yeah, she's close.
She's really close.
But I find that, that is, I battle that a lot.
I really battle that. So that's why I'm like, it's so interesting because you were just saying like words I think you said that words have the power, and it's so interesting because that's like what you're passionate about is writing and words and encouraging people probably and like impacting the world. But it's so tempting to use those words to like, the same words that we want to create with when we have the pen or the computer or whatever. But it's like I so badly just want to use that power also in another way, I think I like also love justice, and I know the Lord loves justice. He is justice, but the tension of like loving our enemies, and that's I follow somebody who used to be in Reading also, and he just talks about this constantly, like the what do you call it? Like passive, not I'm butchering this, but like no, he doesn't believe in war and fighting, and like based on scripture and the New Testament and Jesus's life, like he talks about that, and it's just so challenging because I have so many enemies that I've never met before because they're just like seem evil to me or betray, the betrayal or so many things you just like, this is wrong. But God, like, how do you want me to love them? Yeah.
I think it's helpful. He understands. In that circumstance. That feels like it's in a very political, like global sense. What I speak about is, which it's almost like, what's the verse when you like take the plank out of your own eye type of thing? Yeah. Is
make them human too.
Can we love the people who are most present to us in our day to day? Can we love the coworkers and the frustrating neighbors or the people in line?
Totally. In front of
before
you in the car.
We even think globally.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And by the definition that Jesus lays out is to serve that person, literally like a servant. Jesus says, I came not to be served, but to serve. And so that to me is the most challenging sense, is once I've identified someone as an enemy, I have this feeling, great, now I have to pray for them. Now I have to bless them. Now I have to serve them.
Yeah. We talked about that a few weeks ago, Brad and I, and we were talking about, like, I think I mentioned, like, that's when I know they're kind of my assignment to love them, because I realize, oh gosh, it's usually someone that I have a very hard time with it now. You are, okay, I'm going to start praying for you when I'm home alone. And at what point is there, like, you need to put boundaries is what we were talking about. But yeah, that's so good, cause especially because that is being like Daniel to King Nebuchadnezzar, like, they were friends. How do you become friends with someone who tosses you in the lion's den or like in a fiery furnace, you know? But it's like shows that I think it even says, I was reading in Daniel, and it's like that they were friends. How, you know? But yeah, there's so many examples in the Bible that it just can get us through, and so humbling and serving, like how Jesus washed the disciples' feet. He took I'm like hopping around in scripture, but he took the towel, you know, he put it on himself, knowing his identity, knowing that he was a son, knowing who he was, then he washed their feet. So it's like before you just do that, like knowing who you are, then you know, it's so good. It's so hard. Well, I like that whole world is just blows my mind. I can't imagine what it's like to be like, just seems very much you like not much in control of some things because you're like present, and it's just, you know, it's what, I don't know, like what people want to make it for you, but that's just very humbling. I'm just still processing all that.
There's a lot that's not in my control.
Yeah.
That's
it's like
trying to be content and
yeah.
the ebbs and flows, but there's a lot that's great too.
Okay, what's like been your favorite in that community, or what's like, and have you seen God move like through you, or your, I don't know if your partner, for writing partner, or your, like, what have you seen him do, even if it's in like small hidden ways, or maybe it's just loving the people that are really annoying, like.
Yeah, it's not like I'm surrounded by annoying people all the time.
I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I don't know if I'm maybe totally privy or blind to ways I'd say words influence people. I don't know. I wouldn't say our writing is Christian by any stretch.
Which
we have many
great.
projects that aren't.
Yeah.
I would say my influence, if there's any, interpersonally, is in between the meetings, the way we treat people. I mean, honestly, I feel like the Lord is posturing me just with whatever platform I do have, you know, you asking me to be on this or other things I talk on, you know, how do I show people that they're, like, this new word that the Lord's given me lately is to be above the waves.
Ooh.
With him. In the story when he calls Peter out of the boat, like, I feel like the last year or two I've been toiling a lot of sinking, a lot of treading water, a lot of trying to fight uphill on a wave. And my wife knows this, that my secret desire is I wish I could go live in a monastery. It's far from the reality of my life. And this was probably about 2 months ago. I was going through a real frustrating, challenging moment with someone professionally, and just in prayer being like, man, I want to go be in a monastery. And I don't get these words a lot, but it's like a whole like vision imprinted on me that the Lord's saying, like, you're never going to live in a monastery. You are going to be a monastery to others.
Yes.
And I had this vision of him being like, just be above the waves with me. Like, it's going to be all crazy, and you can literally just walk around up here. And so
that's so
I'm chasing that right now in terms of, you know, how can I, when there's chaos, which there is, do two things. One, not overreact emotionally or just erratically that harms others, but two, speak directly and truthfully into circumstances. A lot of times I feel like in this industry, people tell half truths or don't want to say the truth because they just want to avoid confrontation, and where I feel like there's true peace is Jesus did this all the time, where he cut, let's just get to the brass tacks here. And so sometimes I find myself making people uncomfortable because I'm like, no, this is actually what's happening. So let's fast forward a month when we all realize this is the reality, but it's too late to act out of it.
That's wise. Yeah.
So it's not always as though my discernment is coming in passivity. I'm definitely not a passive person.
That's
in fact,
awesome.
I feel as though the Holy Spirit a lot of time is pulling me back on a choker.
Whoa. From saying to
from pausing and going, is this truth you're about to pierce with, or is this just your frustration?
Totally get it.
You know, so pause before you speak. So in some ways I feel like I'm hoping that ministers to people. You know, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I might look too casually as my work is like a ministry. I think that my ministry is in this current season outside of my actual career.
Right. Yeah, very much, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's okay, though. I think it's okay that it's not like, I don't think we have to be, I mean, I'm asking pretty specifically, but
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be like every moment. Oh my gosh. Like I've definitely encouraged friends who are trying to find God in their job. Like, I don't know where he is. I'm like, I've talked very closely with friends that, hey, it does, because they're like, I don't think this is holy. I don't know if this is like, is God even in this? I'm like, invite him into your typing. Invite him into your, right? Invite him into the walking down the hallway. Invite him into, like, it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, this is so, like, so special, so spectacular. It's just like, as you're having a conversation, just like bless them, you know? And it doesn't always have to be so, like, ministry. It's a Wednesday night prayer, you know? Like, it's whatever God has you do.
Yeah, I actually think it can be deceiving if you do a quote unquote ministry focused type of career.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this as someone who, you know, the film company I own, I started it 13 years ago so that I could hire adults returning home from incarceration, which was an outflow of my faith. And it started to become as though people would look at me like, you have figured out how to have your cake and eat it too.
Wow.
Like, you get to make films and do something for the gospel. But what I found is in this season, that's happening, but that really isn't the ministry. You know, I feel like I was just as effective as a waiter that when I was in college and after.
Exactly.
And I mean that. Like I can think back to a lot of conversations and relationships when I was just an assistant that were just as meaningful as they are now. I think that my encouragement to anyone, while you're maybe pining for something, is I believe the Lord will be faithful when you're faithful in small moments, which can be tremendously hard. Like, I even think about my own company, you know, that was even birthed because I started privately meeting with people who were homeless, living on the streets, and
that's
had
like
no
hidden.
intention of ever starting a company doing that. But as the Lord met me in there, and then I had relationships, and then people were staying in our home and that were off the streets, and then it just kind of evolved, and the Lord kept giving me more and more vision for the next
thing.
You know, it's not like I went from waiting tables to I'm just going to go start a mission-based company.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You have to be so faithful in the tiniest,
that's so good,
most insignificant moments and insignificant jobs.
When no one's watching.
Yeah.
And honestly, those are the moments, like you said, like waiting tables, working at Target, working at Home Depot, working as a janitor. Like, heaven comes in that.
Totally.
There's a book that our youth pastor Parker let me read, and it's called Christians at Work. And it shows like surveys about people thinking like, oh, this job is more important, this job is less important because it's like a church job, or I'm a parent, and so it's not as significant. And it's just like kind of debunking the whole conversation of that there's like people who work within the church, the walls of a church or something, or like, oh wow, Mother Teresa or a pastor or something is, and then I'm just a nobody. It's like, no, you're going out, you're doing it. Like, we need people in restaurants. Like, it's also a dark industry. Like, we need people on the streets. We need, like, all of it is important. Everything is holy. Yeah.
I would encourage people that I don't necessarily always use the term like, I know you mean when people say it's like a dark or there's sin there. What I have found is that there's people that are everywhere are scared and wrestling, and you can be a respite to them. And I might not have access anymore to the waiter or the busser because I no longer work at that restaurant.
Right.
But at the time, I can recall moments of me opening myself up, whether that was sharing a meal, sharing a cigarette, sharing a coffee with someone, and giving them space to feel safe. Because, darkness in that sense, or sin, is really just someone turning their focus away from God, and how quickly you can snap them back to the Lord, and how quickly they can feel that comfort.
People are very hungry and seeking everywhere. That's awesome.
Because and I say this, it's what's hard now for someone like myself who gets paid to do my dream job, is you don't need to be doing that to be effective. And if effective is even the right word, being open to the Lord. My greatest desire from the beginning, once my faith became real to me, it was like, if I can experience God now in my day-to-day, that's what I want. So what active decisions, things do I have to do to make that a reality versus a theoretical God who saves me in the afterlife and I can go to church casually on Sundays? Which I know is saying a lot to a lot of people who do that, but
it's okay.
It seems like a very vapid waste of time.
Yes.
To me.
Go on about that. Let's go. Say more.
So I just encourage anyone, you can seek God's activity in the world, no matter what, quote unquote, worldly position. Yeah. Because I could just soon, a year from now, not be doing this and not be relevant to an industry that's not, it's built on sticks and stones.
Yeah,
it's
always changing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool now, but I'm not be cool in a year from now, And
not worried about that, right? How do you live not, you're I'm with the Lord, above the waves, like you said.
Yeah, because when I sometimes think about it, I get real anxious.
Yeah.
I'm providing for my family on storytelling.
Yeah, right.
It's not real brick and mortar over here.
Honestly, though, cool thing is Jesus is the master storyteller. He was great at parables. So some people caught on and some people were like, bye, I'm out. Yeah. You just totally offended me. They don't get it.
Yeah.
But he was a master, so we can pull from him. I mean, the world is hungry. They are seeking. They are, what was I going to say? I had a good question for you, but it went Safeway. You also, though, this is a little plug for Laundry Love. That's a part of our local homeless and low income, or just anybody who wants to get their laundry done.
Yeah.
You came across that. When was that? Can you just share a little bit how you got involved with Laundry Love?
Yeah, that was...
Because it's the best.
Maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when we were a part of another church, our small group decided we wanted to have our own ministry as a group. And one of our original partners, Ben, knew about another community in Thousand Oaks that was doing it. So we just, me and some others went and visited some other sites in Ventura at the time that were going on. And then we just started one. We just hit up a laundromat that was near my house.
Crazy.
I mean, I just was like, that one's the closest.
Yeah.
And the owners were down. So then COVID shut it down, which was a bummer. Makes sense, packing people into a laundromat.
Everyone was so scared to go grocery shopping too.
Yeah.
It was scary, yeah.
But, then we relaunched it with you guys. And
but you do so well with people, but you already mentioned, you were doing it years ago, just conversations with homeless people or bringing them in. I feel when I feel so safe going, because I think I just feel so, wow, you just see these people normal. I've grown up serving poor people. We were poor growing up, but not homeless. We were very taken care of still, but just growing up in the laundromat as a laundromat kid, and someone Like you there talking with kids, talking with the people that is maybe are like, oh, you're kind of rough. And actually they're not.
No.
Everyone's so joyful and like so sweet. And just, it's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Such a vulnerable ministry. Such a vulnerable thing to be getting your laundry done. And like someone standing there putting money in for you. It's very humbling.
Yeah. I think what makes it easier for me to talk to people who are different than me, I'd say, like socioeconomically or in all capacities different than me, is I take very seriously in Matthew 25 where Jesus says, if you've done these for the least of these, you've actually done it for me. And years ago, to me, I was like, I could actually encounter Jesus.
That's cool. Yeah.
To me, it's a very explicitly linked, is that the right way to say it, to my faith. Or I think if you're to be a Christian is to meet Jesus in the poor. There's no, I actually don't think it's a choice. It's a command.
Right.
It's an expression of your faith. And to me, it's just not every laundry love, not all the time, but I look for opportunities like, could I actually experience the living God through the most unlikely individual?
It's not flashy. It's not like catchy.
But I mean it. I feel that I have in some regards felt, I don't know how to describe it outside of like the actual spirit. Like you're connecting with an individual purely based on the fact that you believe that there's a God who rose from the dead and
so good.
defeated death, and the freedom is that you get to love without boundary. I think that's what's so exciting about those Saturdays, and anytime. I think it's why Jesus drives us there.
It's so good. I'm so glad we get to. I'm like, as sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, do we have everything in order? Do we have everything set? Like, and then I talk to your wife, Katie, and she's like, it's okay. Like, you don't it doesn't have to be she's right at this time. It does. And she's very like on top of things, but she's also so good at like, it's all right. And I'm like, no, what? Like, we can do all these things though. And she's like, it's okay. Like, we're going to start. We can be a few minutes late. It's all good. Yeah. And it's so refreshing because it like, why are we here? It's not to make sure this is all set up. Okay. It's not like make sure it's all flowing perfectly. It's like, just love them. And you do so well. You like stop and see people and stay late when needed. And yeah, it's just like, I didn't mean to talk about this today, but I just like, I love it. And that's like also your heart, like you were sharing. Like,
I think my encouragement to people is be like, on that front, is it's not a duty to try to understand the expression of your faith as an opportunity to it be an outflow of what you believe. I think a lot of people that claim faith are missing out on experiencing faith. I think a large swath of people that claim to be Christians stop short of actually experiencing it, and it's where I see a lot of people my age who I knew in their 20s or early 30s were what I would have deemed like really strong, faithful Christians. Is the tank runs out when you're just showing up to a club on Sundays, you know, and it's tough because if you got a great church like we do, you show up to a great service and you can just leave after that. And
how do people
I don't know how to do that, or deal with that, but for people to view it as, and it can be scary to come to a laundry love or to invest in anything or just feel like you're exhausted. I'm a parent of X amount of kids and I got all this stuff.
Now I have to do another thing.
Thing. Even then, we bring our boys.
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it makes it easier.
Yeah.
With a 7 and a 4-year-old, but part of that is to invite them into a rhythm of getting a chance to experience the Lord, and so I don't know, I just encourage people to not stop short of, I think everything that's talked in Scripture is meant to be experienced, not learned,
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah, if you're just learning it, you're not really learning it.
Yeah. But back to that, I guess we can land it in a sec, but I just like keep circling back to the walking on the water with him and like how comfortable it can be to stay in the boat. But the challenge, like the faith to step out and walk to him looks like something. It's not like, oh, I'm coming. I see you. I see you. I see you. But I'm good. Like it looks like something. So it's the tension. It's like faith to not just sit every Sunday and be like, I'm good, but he's inviting.
There has to be fruit. In the true sense of like how do you know what Jesus says?
Yeah. You recognize.
I mean, it's just quoting things I'm sure people have heard, though. But I'm trying to be like, can someone look at the rhythms of my life? And I've thought about this deeply now that I have 2 boys who are essentially in my school for the next 18 years as I look at it.
That's good.
I board them, I feed them, I teach them.
Yeah.
So
that's very intentional.
What rhythms am I, for us, I go, what does waking up look like? They meet me in the living room where I'm in scripture and we sit in scripture first, even at 7 years old. The dude wants to build Legos. He wants to play with his helicopter, whatever he does. But explain to him, your heart will always chase other things. It's, like whether it's building Legos, which aren't bad.
Yeah.
Those aren't bad things.
No, they're not bad things.
But, I've taken a hard look at, like, it's why we try our best to invite them into Laundry Love, because I'm like, they're going to understand faith by watching our, what is our fruit? How do mom and dad behave?
That's so good.
And so I read James very seriously, the book of James, where it talks like faith without works is dead. Like I just, I don't know how else you get around it.
You cannot.
Not that it's always like, well, works don't save you. But to me, they are an outward proof that what you believe.
What do you do when you love someone?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you don't just say I love you. You do. There's action.
You behave out of it.
You do. Yeah, I would hope so, or else there's not functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good. I don't even know what to title this. I feel like there's so many good things. I'm like, just all right, Ricky, stop everything. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. And like, if there's any last word you want to give, you can do it now. But
I don't know if I have any last word. I mean, I appreciate you.
It was also good.
Hope it was focused. I know we didn't talk a lot about writing and filmmaking and all that, but
we can do another part.
I mean, this is kind of the waters I swim in. Even I don't lift up my work. If the Lord wants to use it in some fantastical way, but to me, what I've at least learned in this season, and maybe this is a good last word for an artist who might tune into this, knowing that what I do is your craft or your art cannot hold the weight of worship. Like it can't. It will disappoint you. I have felt that at the most severe level. Like everything I've ever dreamed as a kid, I've gotten, and it didn't live up to what I imagined.
Wow.
And so I'm sure there are people that hear that will be like, oh, it's so negative and sad, but it's true. Like
so good.
I got to make a major movie with major movie stars and sold it for a major amount of money on a major platform, and every like dream I hit it, and it just it was. I mean, everyone has said this. Money doesn't make you happy. Fame, all that
fleeting
stuff. It is. It really was good for me to feel like that was awesome that I achieved it, and it did not live up to how much I sacrificed mentally, my sleep, my anger, my relationships. So it wasn't worth it.
Wow.
So I don't know how that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the truth. Like, I think we just need to demask things and what does it look like to walk with God in our workplace, in our occupation, in our life. And so it's great.
Yeah. So now I just try to enjoy when things I make get seen or celebrated.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's,
That's great.
just as good as your mom putting it on the fridge.
Oh,
like,
it's so good. I know that God was happy when he made the earth. He wasn't angry or frustrated. He wasn't like, I'm sure he was like, a deer, like, wow.
There's pleasure in just the creation. Like,
Yeah.
I have to remember that I found the things that, not they could hold to worship, but when I look back at some of my achievements professionally, I'm very proud in the way that I made those things with the people that I made them.
That's good.
Those were done in very beautiful, sustaining ways that the art itself, the product, is so secondary. I could probably say the same of the community of poets. Like, the relationship you have with them is probably more sustaining than the actual poetry.
It's completely true.
But it's what brought you together.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I view my work, is what the work itself is putting me into proximity of people that I would otherwise not get proximity to. Just like when I was a waiter, I had proximity to people that I no longer do now. So.
I feel like it's all about love and whatever, like it's all humans in love, and that's what Jesus died for. The art is like, the creating is out as an overflow.
Yeah, it's just a really great, awesome part of, like, there's so many. I wish I could sing like you. I wish I could play instruments. Which I can do neither. I think, man, how cool that would be. Yeah.
We have all our own ways.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it's so good. Thank you so much, everyone. And God has, I just will speak this out to end, but God has placed something in us all. And it's like, listen to it, be with him in the overflow, let it come out, but let it be like joyful and full of him, and let him sustain you. Yeah. That's all I got. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is so good. That's a wrap. That's the end.
All right.
Oh, so good.
All right. Thanks for having me.
I love where we get to go. Like, it's so good.